Thank you.
All right, let him go on by.
Hey.
Get a line here.
Right here.
Hold it. Line. Come on. Hold the line.
Can the press get through?
Not right now, no. I'm shooting.
I've got one on.
You want everybody back over here on the other side of the sidewalk. Other side of the sidewalk. Other side of the sidewalk. Other side of the sidewalk.
Now, please.
Yeah, they're going to stay right here.
The president, right after it happened, turned around and kind of looked back at the spot, and it was clear, to me at least, that he was aware of what had happened. He seemed to me stunned, bewildered, dazed, something like that. And it was clear that he knew what had happened. And
The head of the White House Protective Detail will be informing Mrs. Ford and the rest of the family of these facts that I've related to you.
Ron, how would you describe the president taking the situation, and is he going to continue his schedule?
The president will continue on and finish his schedule today.
How is he taking the situation? Could you describe it?
He essentially had no comment about it. And as I think some of you saw, he moved on into the building.
What did the president personally do when he saw the gun? Did he leap out of the way? Did he?
Agent Boondorf turned over the woman to Agent McCarter and then returned to his duties of protecting the president. Later, it was established that the gun was a .45 and was loaded. Agent Boondorf was treated by the President's physician, Dr. William Lukash. The only treatment required was a Band-Aid on the cut. The woman was identified by the Sacramento City Police Department as
Lynn Alice Frome.
I wasn't personally aware, although our office has from time to time known that these people have been in Sacramento purely as an intelligence relation between other agencies, and that they have created some disturbance because of their relationship with this prisoner Charles Manson.
Why were they not under surveillance, sir? You started
Because they have never expressed any interest in the president or anything of a federal nature.
Were you aware
and
that
we can't surveil or make that type of an investigation on every person that is a little bit out of the ordinary as far as any cause that they might espouse.
I think the Secret Service and the other law enforcement agencies that were on the job were doing a superb job, and I want to thank them for everything they did in this unfortunate incident. I also wish to express to the people of California my gratitude for the very, very warm welcome that they've given me in the state of California. And I would not under any circumstances feel that one individual in any way represented the attitude on the part of the people of California. I just thank the Californians for being so friendly and so hospitable. And let me add with great emphasis, this incident, under no circumstances, will prevent me or preclude me from contacting the American people as I travel from one state to another and from one community to another. In my judgment, it's vitally important for a president to see the American people. And I'm going to continue to have that personal contact and relationship with the American people. I think it's vital, and I intend to carry it out.
President, can you give us any idea of what you saw or felt personally?
I am not sure that I ought to describe what I saw beyond the fact that I saw a hand coming up behind several others in the front row, and obviously there was a gun in that hand. I then saw almost instantaneously very quick and very effective action by the Secret Service in taking care of the matter.
In recent years, a disproportionate percentage of new jobs has come from the public sector rather than the private. The result has been the creation of a bureaucracy that contributes very little to America's prosperity and productivity. It simply shares it. Starting from point zero, about a century ago, the federal government now employs over 100,000 people whose sole responsibility is writing, reviewing, and enforcing some type of regulation. 100,000 people whose principal job is telling you how to do your job. It's a bureaucrat's dream of heaven, but it's a nightmare for those who have to bear the heavy burden. Just to list all of the rules and regulations established last year required 45,000 pages of very small type in the Federal Register. I mourn for the trees that were felled in America's forests to make this exercise in governmental nagging possible. The regulatory reform legislation I propose will seek to eliminate the obsolete, the unnecessary, the impractical, and yes, the impossible. Let's retain what is truly helpful and required in federal regulations. It's a minimum amount. Let's get rid of the rest, and the sooner the better. If the United States is to grow in a substantial, meaningful way, the impetus has to come from the private sector. Jobs are the symbol of a healthy free enterprise system. Jobs, particularly in the private sector, are the fuel that makes our economy run. Obviously, to achieve the full economic potential of America and Americans, we must make it possible for our industry to maintain its competitive edge in world as well as domestic trade. We have no choice but to compete, and I say with emphasis, to excel. Help me, help your representatives in the Congress, help your governor, help your state legislature, help us all to free the free American enterprise system. Give America the means, and the Americans will find the way. Thank you very much.
Well, I thought the President's comments were very, very timely. Of course, we're all proud to have him here in Sacramento and at the host breakfast, but he properly talked about the excessive government regulation, which is a burden on our economy. He talked about the need of getting America back to work. He said that the private sector was the best mechanism that we have in the country to do that, and certainly I agree with that, and I think that the audience agreed heartily, as indicated by their applause. I think the President is on the right track and support him 100% in these efforts.
Well, I think the President gave a very determined statement in which he stated that we're either going to become free Americans again and cause our economy to grow, or we're going to go further and further in the direction of a planned socialistic type economy. I just came back from Canada yesterday, and to see rates of inflation there approaching 25% in the province of British Columbia, and the tyranny that's creating in that area gives me great concern for our own future if we don't turn our country around and let investment forces get into position again in order that we can create new jobs, improve the productivity of the country, and stop this never-ending hijacking, if I may call it that, of wage increases which are only based on force and not upon the fact that we have created a bigger productivity pie to share amongst all the people in our country.
Well, the President, of course, had a very receptive audience for the things that he had to say, and he's been saying a number of things that Governor Brown has been saying, too. The hopeful thing is that the message gets over to the legislators here in California and the members of Congress back there, as the President is, that we require some action on the part of government to remove some of the barriers that the President talked about.
They were concerned that the videotape might be subject to misuse, and that the fact that a defendant could have the power, although it's not the defendant that has the power, to gain the president's attention in this manner might excite or create problems with others. However, the judge has ordered that the videotape would be carefully maintained in the custody of the court.
Judge McBride also ordered that the jury be sequestered during the entire trial, but he does not anticipate it'll be lengthy. Steve Swat, KCRA News, Sacramento.
They were concerned about the manner of compliance. They had preferred something other than videotape, a regular deposition or written interrogatories. But it's my understanding that they're not going to oppose that either.
What kind of a precedent do you think this is going to set for future presidents?
Well, I suppose if a president receives a subpoena and he's a victim, that it's a precedent for his being authority for subpoena of the president.
Is this a good or a bad precedent?
What about the separation?
I hope it's the only time it ever happens, so that it's never a precedent for anything.
It may not be convenient. He is traveling quite a bit. Also, it is a precedent, and I am sure that the White House is concerned about setting a precedent in this type of case. I would not want his presence to lend any dignity to the defense of this case, and I feel that there is other evidence, a lot of other evidence, that will be of the same character as the evidence he is giving, so that it is not necessary.
Okay, fine.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Mr. Keyes, basically, what are your reasons for asking Judge McBride to reconsider his ruling of yesterday?
Well, we feel that,
well, he is a very busy man, and this will take, you know, some time away from his schedule. So I'm sure that that's going to present a problem.
Without him being present, or without me being able to cross-examine him, there is no right of confrontation. I should be allowed to ask him and to probe into exactly what he saw and what he didn't see and what he heard and what he didn't hear. For instance, he says, in the statement that he gave to the FBI, he says he has no recollection. Does that mean he simply doesn't recall, or does that mean he didn't hear it? Or he just doesn't know whether there was a click or not?
Judge McBride said he wants the videotape deposition of the president within 10 days and hopes Mr. Ford or his lawyers will not object. But he said the testimony of the president is important because, in his words, he's the man that was looking right down the barrel of the gun. Steve Swat, KCRA News, Sacramento.
Mr. Berger, why did you take the case?
I was asked to see Ms. Fromm, and she was going to be allowed to talk to myself and a number of other lawyers and then make a determination as to whether or not she wanted to substitute counsel. I was informed that she wanted me to represent her, and I have thus taken on the case.
Why did you take the case?
There's no specific reason why I've taken the case other than I'm an attorney, and I have an obligation to the court and to Ms. Fromm to make certain that every possible constitutional right she has is protected.
Do you think you can get along with her better than Mr. Walker?
I don't know if I can get along with her better than Mr. Walker or not. I think we have an excellent rapport, and I anticipate no problems. Yes, I would I think that my knowledge of the law and my expertise of the rules of evidence is far beyond hers. However, I'm more than happy to work with her as co-counsel.
I think she did as well as could be expected. She got as much as I could get. I have no complaints about her performance at all.
Would you ask, what is the problem of no rapport between you and Ms. Frome? What's wrong?
Well, she has her idea of what the law is, and I have mine, and she doesn't like to hear sometimes truth isn't always beautiful, you know, and as a result of that, she perhaps doesn't like some of the things that I have to tell her as counsel. I'm not going to compromise my position as a lawyer, and that requires me to be stern sometimes as to what we can do and what we can't do in the judicial process. Well, you know, the Supreme Court said something about one who has his own attorney has a fool for a client, and now one has a constitutional right to be a fool. Justice Blackburn said that recently in the Feretta case. She has a constitutional right to represent herself. Our business is the rights of defendants, and I think the judge will have to allow her to do that, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Right.
I want to get a shot too. Get around behind you, please.
Film, huh?
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I think that's an inappropriate characterization. That's a determination that that has nothing to do with the reasonableness of bail. It's in the new Speedy Trial Act. They talk about high risk. I don't think it's an appropriate characterization. It's a prejudgment. She's still innocent until proven guilty.
Under no circumstances bother the residents of that house.
Okay,
if I'm not there, then just don't ring any doorbells.
Yeah. Can we talk to you at just for 1 second here before you
back
leave?
Just the house.
Back to the house? All right.
Briefly, yes.
We were working together on trying to solve the timber harvesting problem that came.
Did it make you a little fearful, a little shaky?
Well, yes, a little.
Under no circumstances bother the residents of that house.
Okay,
if I'm not there, then just don't ring any doorbells.
Yeah. Can we talk to you at just for 1 second here before you leave?
Back
Just
to the house.
back to the house. All right.
Briefly, yes.
We were working together on trying to solve the timber harvesting problem that came.
Did it make you a little fearful, a little shaky?
Well, yes, a little bit, but not to the point where I won't go on doing my job or take any necessary precautions. I would rely on any authorities here in Sacramento to tell me what I might do, but I don't feel that shaky about it.
Any idea why your name was on that list?
I didn't have any idea to start with, but I think I have gathered a few clues since that Sandra said something about trees being cut in California. I was state forester from 1971 through 1974, and we have authority to regulate timber harvesting in California on private lands.
As I say, I'm counsel for SMUD. SMUD has a nuclear plant. That's all there is to say.
That's the only connection you can see.
That's the only connection between me and the nuclear plant, yes.
Will you have some kind of personal security, increased security precautions on yourself now and your family?
I simply haven't given the matter any thought at all.
Well, I think it's because the Bugliosi book is the more recent of the two. It was only published, I believe, in 1974, and it's the book that is still freshest in the minds of people who've been writing and speaking about this incident in the media, various media. It seems to be the one that comes to mind most quickly, and of course this was mentioned on all of the television shows and in newspaper and magazine articles and so forth. The other book seems to have been forgotten, even though perhaps it may be a more insightful book into the Manson people.
1972, when San Francisco police picked up Manson family member Sandra Good, who was wanted at the time in Oregon. Along with her, they obtained from a friend a loose-leaf booklet called The Book of the Dead. They photographed it and returned it, and until now it has remained unpublicized. Today, the police
The Supreme Court says you have a right to represent yourself. It has to be a meaningful right. The government wants to lock you up before you're convicted, then they have to give you some meaningful place to prepare your defense. How can you do it if you don't have any access? You don't have any books. You don't have a typewriter.
Go down.
Could you move back?
As for where the trial will be held, it looks like Sacramento. Last week, the public defender indicated he may move to have it transferred. But today, Ms. Frome, acting as her own co-counsel, told the judge, "I don't intend to move for a change of venue." Steve Swat, KCRA News, reporting from the Federal Courthouse, Sacramento.
Well, it's not the happiest position for a lawyer to be in, to have a layman as a co-counsel, but I think it's her right. Right is our business, and we'll do everything we can to assist her as co-counsel. I think she should have been released on her own recognizance. I think she'll make all court appearances.
You also said you thought that there, if not OR, there should be some reasonable amount set. What was that amount?
I have no comment on that.
Set. What was that amount?
I have no comment on that.
What happened? I saw the 3 or 4 agents wrestling her back, bending her hands over her head, wrestle the pistol out of her hand. It was a black .45 semi-automatic type pistol.
He flinched and started moving away, and the Secret Service people just jumped all over her.
The president, you saw him flinch.
We've examined a great deal of it, or about 2/3 through our examination, but we have not found anything yet that would indicate a possible threat to the president or any possible conspiracy. However, we're still pursuing this matter.
Have FBI agents interviewed Charles Manson in prison?
Yes, we talked to him in prison yesterday morning for almost 2 hours, but he gave nothing. There was a real evidence to us or worthwhile leads, and nothing indicating a possible conspiracy of any kind. As a matter of fact, he was kind of evasive and talked a great deal about his stand on various problems in the country, and particularly ecology.
Well, the Sacramento County Jail is a maximum security facility, and she is being held in the same manner as any other maximum security prisoner.
You are taking no extra special precautions for her?
None whatsoever.
What type of prisoner has she been so far?
She has been no problem. There has been no incidents reported at all.
This is the type of gun that was pointed at the president, a .45 caliber automatic. The pistol's magazine or clip contained 4 cartridges. But merely loading the clip into the gun is not enough to fire it. Ms. Fromm allegedly tried to fire the gun without pulling back a mechanism which forces a cartridge into the chamber. Had this been done, it would have fired. Steve Swat, KCRA News, Sacramento.
Not believe she was capable of such a violent act.
Why not? What kind of a girl was she?
She was a gentle, quiet, I thought, peace-loving girl.
To a victim forcibly.
Yes.
Why?
Because I really don't know how many people's in back of them. Well, the meeting was a round table discussion type of meeting that was held here in our apartment. It was attended by all the attendants that were home at the time.
Some are working.
Some were working. The general outcome was that most of them felt that since the girls had never bothered them, or had never bothered us, had never given us a bad time in any way, even though we knew that some of their ideas were a little far out. Since they had not bothered us, they had not threatened us in any way, that we would let them stay.
And he's got a 2-year-old son. I've got a 12-year-old son. My brother's got a 2-year-old daughter. He's an older gentleman, quiet, never comes home. I have no idea their relationship whatsoever. I know that she Mr. Borrow had loaned her his car, the Cadillac. From what I understand, she wrecked it, and he purchased a red Volkswagen for her. And after that red Volkswagen was purchased, my mom said that she was at the house once, I believe. Other than that, she wasn't a frequent visitor.
But apparently they were good friends.
I am assuming so. I'm assuming that they were. He spent a lot of time away from the apartment, but as like I say, he was a perfect tenant. We never had any problem.
Did you know that Mr. Borrow apparently at one time had a gun?
Yes. The only reason I know this is because of an accident that happened from my mother's house to the apartment. Was a water leakage, and it had seeped through his kitchen and into his closet. And my mother explained to him what had happened and wondered if there was anything in the closet that could have been damaged. And he said, well, I have a gun, and it's something that I saved from World War II, is how he explained it. And he went and checked in the bottom of the closet where he had it. It was not damaged.
On August 12th, Borrow moved out of his small quarters in Sacramento. He left his landlady a forwarding address in the foothill town of Jackson.
People who've shown an interest in, in the president or federal officials, or have made statements about federal policy, which might, The investigators traced the gun from information that they received, and I cannot.
Do you anticipate the owner will be charged?
Well, we have not made a decision at this time. I would say that probably not.
Did you say,
World War I souvenir or something? I mean, what's the... Is it somebody's collector's item?
No, it was not somebody's collector's item.
Did the gun leave the owner's possession with his knowledge, can you say?
I can say that somebody has asked if the gun was stolen. It was not stolen.
Here we have a statement talking about bloody houses and so forth and so on. Were these agencies aware of this statement, which was carried by the Associated Press all over the nation?
To my knowledge, and obviously the person that can speak for that best would be the Public Information Officer for the Department of the Treasury, but to my knowledge, the Secret Service was not aware of that statement.
You mean they weren't aware of a statement that was carried by the Associated Press all over the country on its main wire and printed in literally dozens, perhaps hundreds of newspapers?
I think I just answered that.
You didn't mention him to the Secret Service?
I didn't say that.
Oh, did you?
I did not say that.
Well,
I
did
just
you
said that
mention-
for that information, would you contact Mr.
Well, no, they're
Duncan?
saying contact Washington, and Washington's saying they don't know whether you told them or not.
All right. The fact that this person stuck that gun out and was immediately grabbed by security personnel that was with the president, I think that's, a wonderful thing that happened. That shows security did work.
But Chief Kinney, under the original plan, your people were not supposed to go into the park. Is that correct?
We go in and out of that park daily. We're always the backup for those people.
The state police insist that your city police stay out of the park in the day.
They have never have. He wants us in there more than what, we've got people to put in there.
So you're saying that
we have a very close relationship with the state police.
Well, Mr. Boris is the gentleman from whom the defendant obtained the weapon. He was a friend of hers, and at the time that she obtained the weapon, why, I believe, well, when he was friendly with her, he was living here in this area. I can't make any statement concerning their relationship or his, or anything further concerning that.
Was he involved with the Manson family at all?
To our knowledge, he was not. There was no involvement.
Did he give the gun to her willingly, or was it taken?
That's a question. We're not sure of that circumstance.
Are any charges being pressed against him?
No, no charges. We don't, at this time, we certainly don't intend to charge him.
Behind me? Yep.
Ms. Fromm has indicated she wants to stay in Sacramento. She has been in Sacramento. She isn't going anywhere. She's going to make court appearances. And that's what it's all about. Bail, whether she's guilty or innocent, is not what bail is all about. Bail is for court appearances. She will make court appearances. I have no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.